Get ready for more valuable financial insights from Northern California's premier retirement income planners, Dan Ahmad and Jim Files, owners of Peak Financial Freedom Group. For more information, go to peakfin.com. And now, here's Dan and Jim.
Welcome to the Peak Financial Freedom Hour with Dan Ahmad and Jim Files. And we'd like to do a shout out to all our loyal listeners that have been here for weeks, years, and they've continued to listen to make sure they learn as much as they can possibly to make the right decisions about their money in retirement. Because all we work with are people that have either retired or getting ready to retire in the next 5 years. We don't work with people that are 20 or 25 or 30. And if you're listening, you'll learn some stuff, but it really won't pertain to you until you get to that 55, 60, 65, or 70-year-old. So if you're in that age group, you'll learn a lot. If you're not, then you might want to tune in 20 years from now and you can listen to us at that point. Let's then also take a look at, you can get a lot of data off our website, peakfin.com. We have books you can download, homework you can download. We have a bunch of videos you can watch. You can listen to our podcast there. You can go to our YouTube channel and watch a bunch of videos. You can watch our TV show. There's 13 plus recorded. Don't hesitate to contact us because a lot of people listen to us for years and years and years. And then they finally call in and say, hey, I think I need help. Well, all you have to do is dial pound 250 on your cell phone, say the keyword money, pound 250 and say the keyword money. And that will then tune you into our office so we can see if there's some things that you think you need help with that we might be able to help you with. So definitely feel free to give us a call. We love to meet with people that have listened to it because what we talk about is exactly what we do. We don't talk about one subject on the radio and then do something different. Exactly what we talk about is exactly what we do. So why don't we start off the show like we normally do, and that's with some financial wisdom quotes of the week.
You must gain control over your money, or the lack of it will forever control you. And that's so important to understand. Less to understand as you're younger, because when you're younger and you're making contributions to your 401k plan, you really don't need to know a lot about your money because you have a limited number of choices you can select under your 401k umbrella. And you select maybe a target fund, or you select maybe 5 or 6 mutual funds, and you just kind of go for it, right? And because you're young, you have less money, you don't really think about it. But as you get close to retirement, within 5 years of retirement, or if you're in retirement, you better think a lot about your money. You better figure out, how do I control my money so I don't make a financial mistake, because you don't have recovery time. You're not working any longer, or your working is going to be a lot less as you get close to retirement. So you better take control of your finances, because if not, your financials will take control of you for the rest of your life. And that means you better have a plan in place. You better understand the volatility you have in your portfolio. You better understand the risks, the fees, where your income is going to come from. You better understand all this with great specificity in writing, visually, so that you and your spouse do not make a mistake, Dan.
Well, I think what you're talking about there is a big question for all the listeners right now. And that is, how many of you really right now feel like you're in control of your money? Very few of you. If you look at across the United States, how many Americans do you think right now feel like they're in control of their money? And most people say no one. Maybe there's a few people, but you're just not in control. And the reason you're not in control is because you do not have an actual plan. You have an investment plan like an IRA or a 401k or a brokerage account or a bank account, but you don't have a plan that now ties everything together that helps you to understand all your assets, how they work, when you're going to use them, that allows you to now take control of your money for 3 main purposes. 1 is liquidity. 2 is growth, and 3rd is dependable income. If you think about it, those are all 3 things we want and must have to have a successful retirement plan. We've used this quote the last couple of weeks, so let's bring George Foreman back into the ring. And one of the quotes he said was, the question isn't at what age I want to retire, it's at what income. And we think that's so important because that's kind of the premise that we use and the questions we throw at our clients.
Right. I mean, we'll couple that with also, what level of risk are you willing to accept? In other words, how much money are you willing to lose in retirement? So you got 2 concerns. Number 1, the risk. How much money am I willing to lose in retirement? And how will that affect my life, my personality, my stress level? And number 2, how much income am I going to need for the rest of my life? Those are the 2 most important characteristics you need to understand when it comes to your money.
Well, that ties into kind of another quote that we've used the last couple of weeks, and that's from Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki. He says something I think that's so important because it's what we teach every single client, and that is you've been really good at saving money and building up a huge pile of assets. But at retirement now, you have no idea how to use that pile of assets to create the income on a monthly dependable basis that'll last for as long as you live, that will then allow you to live the lifestyle of your dreams. And Robert Kiyosaki, he says, the key to financial freedom and great wealth, which kind of is nice because we're called the Peak Financial Freedom Group, so it kind of fits. So the key to financial freedom and great wealth is a person's ability or skill to convert earned income into passive income and or portfolio income. Well, you did the first phase, which is converting earned income into an asset, and you create a big asset. So if you have $2 or $3 million saved, you've converted your earned income into these savings. But now, how in the heck do you use those savings to create the income that's going to last for as long as you live and live the lifestyle you want?
You know, Dan, 99% of the people don't know how to do it. And they do one or two things. They'll either say to themselves, we can take a certain percentage off our portfolio. That's money in the market. But what happens is you're always nervous. You're always concerned. And when the market goes down, you're really nervous and you're really concerned. And what happens is you stop spending money at the time that you want to spend money. That's one choice. The other choice is that people say to themselves, okay, I have $1 million. I have $2 million. I have $3 million. We can't touch it. We're afraid to touch it. We will live off our Social Security and other fixed income sources, and they'll try to budget around it. They won't be able to do the things they want to do in that last quarter of their life. So, you know, and it's both of those are incorrect. I mean, you have the ability.
Sad.
It's sad. It's terrible. Look at your age. If you're 65, look at the life expectancy chart. You know, maybe you live till 80, 85, you're lucky 90, but you have about 5 to 10 years in front of you of really good years to really do the things you want to do. Why would you want to sit there and not be able to do those things? And you can do those things if you have a plan in place and understand how to mitigate your risk and how to generate the maximum income and how to make sure that you'll never run out of income, no matter how long you live, no matter how many days in retirement you extend your life, your money's going to be there. You will have a better retirement.
Well, when you asked, why wouldn't they do that? It's very simple. The reason why they don't do these things by creating as much income is currently they think they're taking risk, and that volatility, like you said, scares the heck out of them. And because of that, they don't want to take income off the assets because they're afraid of running out sometime before they die. Then, even if they can talk themselves into taking a decent amount of income out on a monthly basis, now they freak out about taxes because they always have thought, when I was working, I lost 50% of my paycheck in Social Security, federal taxes, state taxes, 401k, 457, 403Bs, all these other costs. So I'm only going to get half of my gross income in retirement. I mean, I'm going to lose half. I don't want to pay 50% in taxes. And in retirement, on average, when we do a tax analysis, our clients are going to be between federal and state, somewhere between 15 and 25% total federal and state taxes. So let's just say it averages 20%. Should you ever been worried about paying 20% of your income in federal and state taxes? And the answer is no. So we can then get over that issue. Then the last issue people have is, well, if I spend my money, there might not be anything left for my kids and my grandkids. And when we put a plan together, we can show you the more you focus on yourselves, the more you focus on creating as much income as you possibly can for you and your spouse that will not run out for as long as you live, by accident, the more money, Jim, you're going to be able to leave to your beneficiaries.
Yeah, the beauty about that is this: you're accomplishing two goals. You're doing the things that you need to do in retirement because you have a limited time on this earth and you have the money to do it, right? And number two, you're generating excess cash flow while you're alive. And if you're not going to spend all that cash flow, you can help out the grandkids. You can help out your children. You can contribute to charities and see that money go to good work rather than dying and hoping it's going to go to good work. It's a big difference in the way you look at it philosophically as you get close to retirement. But again, you can't do that by speculating on what may happen. What you have to do is have a plan in place to show you what will happen. It will happen if you have a plan in place. It's a blueprint. It's like an architectural plan for building a home. Everything is in place for you so you understand how your money is invested, the level of risk you have, the fees you're paying, and where your income is going to come from. All that is in writing for you through our firm. And if this is of interest to you, all you have to do is real simple. On your cell phone, dial pound 250 and then say the keyword money, and you can get connected to our office and we'll schedule a meeting with you. We'll show you how this works.
Well, how about let's cover another quote that we've talked about in the last couple of weeks. And this is from the great Warren Buffett. He states, never test the depth of the river with both your feet. What that means is if you're trying to test something, you have both your feet in. What if the river is 15 feet deep? That means you're going to be under. You might not survive. You might be dead. You're what they call those floaters, right? You just didn't make it. So what he's saying that, and you better make sure you do everything with caution. Well, right now, Warren Buffett, and what he has advised, now he's retired and he has the new guy taking over, but the company has over $350 billion just sitting in cash, not doing anything, not in the stock market, waiting for the stock market to decrease or potentially crash, and then being able to buy things at unbelievable sales prices. And when you think about that, what's the philosophy we use to help clients make sure they don't test the depth of the river with both feet?
We use the exact same philosophy, right? We put a large amount of money in cash type instruments. We put a large amount of money in guaranteed products where you can't lose money when the market falls at all, so that money is going to be there for income for the rest of your life on a guaranteed basis. And then we put money in the stock market. But even the stock market, we have a very low risk level in the stock market. Frankly, over the last 3 months, we have very little equity exposure because, listen, if you look at the data we're looking at every day, it scares us. We got all this data. Buffett went and put $350 billion in cash in the last 6 months. Why did he do that? He's a smart guy. There's other indicators out there that are showing us where the market is. So we're frightened of the stock market. Maybe we're too frightened, right? Because we look at this data all day long. Maybe people think that, oh, you guys aren't as frightened about the stock market. We are frightened about the stock market. That's why we do what we're doing.
You're back with Dan and Jim Files, the Peak Financial Freedom Hour. And today the topic of the show is statements that you could live to regret, meaning having a philosophy that no longer fits now that you're at retirement or getting ready to retire that might have fit when you were 25, 30, 40, etc. And one of the things that we see right now, and I think it's one of the biggest topics we have to cover, we cover this a lot in our workshops, and that is, I told myself a few years ago that if I'd ever get back to even, I would get out of the market if I recovered. But right now, I have not hit my magic number because the market's decreased it again. So we think that could be a big, big problem because there's no guarantee the market's going to continue to grow and allow someone's portfolio. So let's say they had $2 million and went down to 1.5 million, and now they're back up to 1.9 million. And they say, I'm going to wait till I get to $2 million before I make any changes to my portfolio. And they're 60 or 65. Does that make any sense at all?
Well, to the person waiting, I guess it does make sense, right? Because they have this goal in mind. They think they're going to get back to even. But look at it logically. What if you don't get back to even? If you look at the data we look at every day, Goldman Sachs stated here a few months back that if you look backwards in 10 years, this market's going to be flat. Another billionaire that runs a hedge fund, he came out, Weinstein, and stated that when you look backwards 10 years from now, you're going to earn an average rate of 3% if you're in the S&P 500, which if you paid fees and taxes and if you paid transaction costs, that means you're down to 2%. When you're actually looking at this data, you say to yourself, wow, it's a scary, scary future if the markets do what these people are proposing the markets are going to do. And these are really, really smart people. So it's not that you shouldn't have money in the market. We're not saying that. What we are saying is you better take your income. You better take your income needs. Make sure they're fulfilled before you start dumping all your money in the stock market. That's all we're saying.
Well, and the key is, I think, is to make sure that you don't put yourself in a position of paralysis that you can't make any changes until all your losses have been recovered or until you hit that magic number. I've seen so many people who haven't become my clients that made the biggest mistakes ever by saying, well, I have $3 million. And even though that was enough to make their plan unbelievably successful, the guy thought they had to get to $4 million before they could do anything and would have enough. We've had other clients that have had $2 million. Their portfolio went down to $1.7 million before they came to see us. And they said, well, gosh, we can't do anything until the 1.7 million gets back up to 2 million. Well, what if the 1.7 million would allow them to have the retirement of their dreams without any issues? Should they wait until they get back to $2 million? Hopefully just squeeze back into 2 million, or if the 1.7 million works, should they then look at potentially adopting that type of plan?
Well, when we do a plan here, remember, it's a lateral move. It's not like you're moving out of the market forever. You don't have any fun. You don't have any growth rate on anything you're doing. What we're doing is we're showing you how to mitigate your risk, make a lateral move into different asset classes, different strategies, with the hopes that you do have the ability for growth in the future, right? That's what we're doing here. But at the same time, satisfies those needs that you have at this point if you're getting close to retirement, is that you're going to need enough income to maintain your lifestyle. How do we do an income plan and a tax plan and a legacy plan? The legacy plan is your growth plan, but the income plan and the tax plan is going to show you how much income you're going to need and where it's going to come from and will it last for the rest of your life.
Everyone wants to know that data that you just covered. It's just that unless you talk yourself into the fact that the assets you have now are the assets you have, you'll never be willing to move forward with finding out those answers. And just to make it, really, really clear, if right now you're sitting on a portfolio, let's say you had $2 million, and then with all the market volatility up and down, you have $1.9 million. And at $2 million, you didn't even think you had enough money to have a successful retirement. At 1.9 million, then of course you don't think you have enough because it's less than the 2 million. But what if by putting the proper plan together in writing and showing you, proving you that 1.9 million is more than enough to make your plan successful, then you have to accept the fact that your account value today is 1.9 million. It's not 2 million. It's not 2 million. Nope. It's 1.9 million. It's whatever the value of your account is today. And you now have to look at volatility. What's the chance that the 1.9 million could go up significantly? It's high. You got a high probability you can make a lot of money, but you have an equally high probability it could go down significantly. So if the 1.9 could lose even more, that would be significantly more painful to you than if the 1.9 makes a big, huge gain.
If you listen to us every week here on the radio show, and maybe this is the first time you heard us, we're talking about strategies and concepts and financial instruments that you may not be aware of. And you say to yourself, okay, I wonder if those two guys are doing the same things that they're telling their clients to do. And the answer is yes, exactly yes. Dan and I have divided our money up the same way we're proposing that you consider your money divided up. We divided our money up to 3 buckets, right? We're at an age where one day, if we do retire sometime over the future, 5, 10, 15, 20 years, are we going to have enough guaranteed income coming in? And we've set our plans up that way. Do we have enough cash available for those needs that are coming up? We set enough money there. And do we have enough growth based on our personalities and what level of risk we want to take in the market? And the answer is yes. We're doing exactly what we tell our clients to do because that is what we do here. Whereby a lot of advisors, you go to an advisor or a broker, are they doing what you're doing? Are they putting money in the same things you're doing? I don't know, but we're doing that here because we know this works, Dan.
Exactly. Yeah. For my own plan, my wife's plan, we put ours together and we have a 5, 10, and 15-year plan. The 5-year plan is the money we put in. If we wait for 5 years to take income out, we're going to get a 10% payout of whatever we invest now, guaranteed to be paid to us for as long as we both live. So if we take the income at 10%, I pass away to continue to pay my wife 10% for as long as she lives.
Yep. And
when she passes away, whatever's left in the account is paid to her 2 daughters. I don't think we'll take the income out in 5 years because I'm going to still be working. So if we take the income out in 10 years, we're going to get a 15% payout.
Killer.
Of our money guaranteed forever. Where can you get that? You can't get that anywhere. I can't get that anywhere. Nope. So why the heck would I do something different? I actually think we won't take ours out for 15 years because of just continue to work and have enough income coming in. We will then get a 20% guaranteed payout for as long as we both live and any remaining assets are passed to our beneficiaries. I would be dumb if I didn't do that.
Yep. Crazy. It's crazy numbers, right? Now, all this is based on your age, right? But it's phenomenal that there's these type of instruments available right now today that will give you guaranteed life, guaranteed joint life income for as long as you live.
Dan Allman and Jim Files back with you on the Peak Financial Freedom Hour. And today we're talking about, the topic of the show is statements you might live to regret that you make now if you don't have planning behind you. So how about this one? Sometimes we have people come in and they literally will tell us we don't need a budget. And for some of the people, they're probably right logically because they never overspend. They're frugal. They've always made a certain amount of money and they know they're never going to spend more than what they're bringing in on a monthly basis. And that's fine because they're both still here. One of them's handling the money, but what if then something happens to one of them in the future? That could cause a problem. We will not do a plan unless we help you and you provide us with an actual monthly budget of all the expenses you're going to have. But we make it really simple. So I know it sounds, oh my gosh, we got to do a budget. I think it takes less than 30 minutes for our clients to do this particular page. And it's one page. We used to do 4 pages and the clients wouldn't fill it out. So we're like, okay. So we squished it down to 1 page. It covers 95% of their expenses and everyone does it. And they're amazed by the time they get done either that, hey, I was pretty close to what I guessed, or, oh my gosh, we're spending a lot more. I very rarely have anyone saying we're spending less than what they thought. So, what about that as far as statements people might live to regret if they say they don't need a budget?
Well, everybody needs a budget. Maybe you don't know what your budget is, but you need it, right? And you're spending that money. I think a lot of people are afraid to do a budget. They're afraid to really see how much they're spending. And often, yes, you're spending a lot more money than you thought you were spending. I would say 90% of the people that do a budget for the first time are realizing they're actually spending more money than they thought they were spending.
Well, don't you think they need to know that then rather than
You're darn
later?
right. You have to know that, because then you have to figure out, okay, if I'm really spending that money, where is my income going to come from to make sure that I have enough income coming in to maintain my budget? And that's what we do here. That's what we do. We show you how to generate your income.
Well, how about talk about this subject, Jim, with the budget?
Mhm.
Because I think everyone, the way we're talking about now, everyone always thinks of a budget as being constricting. Like when we were 20 or 25, we have to live on rice, or we have to live on ramen or beans. We can't spend money, and we think, oh my gosh, the budget's going to constrict us. And that's true when we're young. But at retirement, we want it to be a golden retirement budget, which we think as a firm is liberating. It liberates you. It makes you free to feel comfortable to spend the money once we know how much you need to spend and once we put the income together. So maybe talk about how that the difference between the constricting viewpoint and the liberating viewpoint is when it comes to budget.
Well, first of all, we have a one-pager Dan mentioned. It lists every possible expense you could have at this point in your life, and at the point in life when you're in retirement. All you have to do is fill that out. It's real simple. Are you making a mortgage payment? Fill that in. Do you have property taxes? Fill that in. Do you have what's the approximate amount of money you're spending in food a month or entertainment? What about health insurance? It's real simple. You just lay that out. You can type it into an Excel spreadsheet. You can handwrite it in with a pencil. It doesn't matter to us. All of a sudden, you're going to see how much money you're spending every single month and every year. It's going to be a little bit shocking to you, probably. Once we have that, then when we sit down, we look at your asset base, then we decide how much money do you really want? How much money do you really want to spend? Obviously, within constraints, you have a certain amount of assets. But if we could get you $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 more per month than your budget is right now, would that make you feel comfortable? And if you knew that money was going to be there every month and every year for as long as you live, would that give you liberation? Would that give you the ability to say to yourself, I can actually spend my money, particularly if a lot of that money is guaranteed? And the answer is yes, but you can't get to that point until you do the budget, right?
No,
You can't.
exactly. So I just thought of a client that we worked with, and they came in kind of like what you said. And I said, okay, what do you think your budget is going to be? And they hadn't filled it out yet. They said, we think we're right in about $8,000 a month of budget. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. They didn't have a house payment. That's kind of where a lot of people come in if they don't have a house payment, right at about 8,000. So I said, okay. And in my mind, I started just formulating based on their assets. I'm like, their plan's going to look great then because they have a really good budget. Well, then they came back and their budget was written down on paper, 10,000. And the guy was like, looked pale. The wife looked a little sheepish, looking around. And I said, so what's the budget number? They said, it's significantly higher than what we thought. And I said, how much? I said, 10,000. I said, well, still, that isn't, outlandish. It's kind of normal. And you probably now have tracked other expenses that you were actually paying that you just didn't include in your 8,000. So it probably is realistic. And he said, but I feel even worse about it now because I think we're only going to generate about $8,000 of income per year or per month between our Social Securities and our assets, which barely covers 8,000. If our budget's 10,000, means we're down 2,000, which means I got to keep working. So we did a plan for them, put it together, focused on the budget, focused on risk, etc. And he wanted to retire 2 years from now. And we put the plan together, and their net income is going to be $15,000 a month after taxes to allow them to pay for their $10,000 budget and have $5,000 more to spend per month than they needed. Now they can say, it doesn't matter what our budget is because we hit it. This planning liberates them to feel comfortable to move forward.
And if you look at this client, right, and we have clients every week that come in and we do this for them, but if they can generate $5,000 more right now per month in excess cash flow, it's already been taxed above their budget, right? Making 15, budget 10, $5,000 left over, $60,000 a year. What can you do with an extra $60,000 a year that's already been taxed? You get to decide that. Do you want to travel more? Do you want to help the grandkids or the kids out? Do you want to buy a brand new car in cash? Do you want to save some of it? Do you want to save all of it? All that is yours to make that decision, because now all of a sudden you have a plan in place that shows you where that income is going to come from. But more importantly than that is that because you have a plan in place, at the same time, we've mitigated your risk significantly to make sure that we have the optimum chance this plan is going to work for you forever. And this type of plan, you're not giving up growth. What you're doing is you're converting from your where you've been, which has been asset accumulation and taking risks, to now asset preservation and income generation. It's a completely different strategy.
Well, in that key, what you just talked about there is the difference between when we're young, working, making a salary, saving money, ability to take risk and absorb losses because we have time on the side, versus now being in an asset preservation against large losses mode and an income generation mode. It's the complete definition of that. And right now, everyone listening, you are in the asset preservation mode and you're in the income generation mode. So you have to design your plan that way. You're back with Dan Ahmed, Jim Files, the Peak Financial Freedom Hour. And today we are talking about, for the show topics, statements you may potentially live to regret. And one of them we talked about right now was the budget, and having to have a budget, and how we view a budget as not being constricting, but being as liberating. Let's look at an example of why it's so important to know what the budget is so we can create excess cash flow. We had clients come in a couple months ago, and they had a decent amount of money in the bank. They had $250,000 in the bank, but they're going to be doing a remodel and an addition onto their master bedroom to design a big bath. It's going to cost them $200,000. So they're going to spend $200,000 of their beloved $250,000 in the bank. They're going to be down to $50,000. And they were both freaked out about it. Even though they wanted to do it, they were almost hesitant to move forward. And I said, well, you have all these assets you're not using for income. And they say, we don't need the income. I said, well, I think you do need the income. They go, no, we don't need the income. I go, I think you do need the income. They started laughing. And because they knew I was teasing them, going back and forth. And I said, let me create a plan that will allow you to have $70,000 more per year than you need right now, after taxes, after your budget. And they go, well, what will we do with that? I'm like, do you think you might be able to put that in the bank for the next 3 years and have your $200,000 that you spent on the remodel paid back to you? And now you have your $250,000 in the bank. And he goes, oh my gosh, I never thought about that. We can do the remodel, honey. We can do the remodel. And she's like, okay, we can do it. So I gave him the referral over to my contractor that does the wonderful drawings and the pictures that look just like what your house remodel is going to look like when it's done. And it's like someone took a picture of it. So it's pretty cool. So because of that, now we're going to spend the $200,000 now, but we're going to replace it back into the bank.
It's amazing. I don't know if you listen to us very much on our radio show, but I think you're coming to the conclusion that we are talking differently. We're talking different than what you hear on the internet. We're talking different than your current advisor. We're talking different than what your broker is talking about. We're talking about things that you should be concerned about and you're worried about, right? We're talking about your budget, net after tax income. We're talking about risk mitigation. We're talking about making sure you understand your fees and try to mitigate your fees. We're talking about growth, but we're more importantly talking about how do we get you through the rest of your life to decrease your worrying. Does your current advisor talk to you this way? If so, you don't need a firm like ours. But 99% of the people that we talk to, and by the way, we are mentors and coaches to a group of thousands of advisors. They actually pay us to consult them to try to train this advisor group on to talk to their customers and clients like we talk to them, because they're not trained to do that. So our whole philosophical approach here is that how do we make your life better? How do we structure plans to make your life better? And that's what we do here. If you're getting that right now, if your money is not just invested, but you're getting those planning concepts and strategies and you're getting that counseling, then you're doing everything right. But the vast majority of people out there, Dan, they don't get that advice.
Nope. And I think it's going to be really telling when we cover our last topic. And that is a statement you might live to regret is, my advisor is a close personal friend and I trust him completely. And because of that, I don't need a written plan because my advisor says I'm in great shape and I have nothing to worry about. Just that statement alone has placed so many retirees and soon-to-be retirees in a massive amount of financial jeopardy. Massive amount. First of all, when you view your advisor more as a close personal friend, which a lot of you listening right now, if you have an advisor, you do. You think of them more as a friend than you think of them as the most trusted, confidential financial advisor to help you make the best financial decisions because they really haven't. They haven't created a plan. And the advisors, they use that personal friendship as a way to keep you as a client, which is great. You want to like the person you're working with, but more importantly, you better work with someone who's going to give you the highest probability your plans for retirement are going to work. And more importantly, you better have it in writing. If an advisor says you don't need a written plan, or I'll do the written plan for you, and has not done the written plan, they should not be your advisor. If they say, don't worry, you don't need a plan because you're in great shape, okay, then flip and prove it, put it in writing so I can now see that I'm in great shape. And if they tell you, you don't have anything to worry about, say, okay, great. I believe you, but I want you to prove it. And I want it in writing.
Well, they're not going to do it, right? And if you don't have a plan and you have an advisor right now, that means that advisor does not do planning. He might tell you he does planning, but if you don't have something in writing, he hasn't done it for you. He's not going to do it for you. If he could do it for you, he would have done it for you. And particularly if you've been with him for a long time, he's not about to stop and go back and do a plan for you, because that's not what he's taught to do. That's not his skill set. Doesn't mean he's not good. It just means that's not his skill set. That's not what he does. And that's exactly opposite of our firm. That's exactly what we do. We put together sophisticated and comprehensive plans that are easy to understand so that you as our consumer, our customer, our client can feel comfortable to get through life. And you know that in advance. You don't wake up at 85 years old and say, gosh, I just should have spent more money, and you die. No, we tell you right now how much you can spend, and we're going to try to get you a lot of excess cash flow on an after-tax basis so that you can do those things for the next 15, 20, or 25 years while you can do them. And that's a big difference, Dan.
Well, it's the only way, really, you can ensure yourself the highest probability of having a happy retirement.
Yep.
What's a happy retirement? Happy retirement means not worrying as much about your money as far as big losses or your money income running out, or not having enough to spend each month to do the things you want. The second to stop worrying about is, well, what am I really going to be paying in taxes and fees? The only way you can find out all this data is to have a plan and have it put in writing. And you might have the worry, well, gosh, I know it's going to be harder on my kids. It's definitely going to be harder on my grandkids. I'm going to be able to leave them some type of significant legacy to make their lives easier. You can only do those things if you have an actual plan. And when you look at why you started saving money for in the first place, 20, 30, 40 years ago, it wasn't to now have this huge amount of assets to worry about when you retired. It was to have a huge amount of assets that you could use to create dependable income that would last for as long as you live. So then you can use that income to create the lifestyle and do the traveling, buy the cars, do the remodel, help the kids out buying a house or the grandkids out with an education. That's why you did the savings, was to enhance your lifestyle or to enhance the lifestyle of your loved ones. And the only way you can do that is by creating a significant amount of income that's going to be paid to you for as long as you live and will never run out.
For more information about Peak Financial Freedom Group or to schedule a consultation, just go to our website, peakfin.com. That's peakfin.com. And thanks for watching.